All right, so today we're going deep on some lyrics.
Okay.
Solo Jones, The Water music video. We're working from the YouTube transcript, of course. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I was pretty blown away by this. This is not your typical, like uh, braggadocious rapper kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot more depth here.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, a lot of imagery. And I think the listener who's into this kind of music and into, sort of dissecting it, is going to find a lot to chew on here.
Right. And even if you're not like a huge hip hop head, I mean, some of these themes, navigating challenges, self-mastery, being true to yourself in a competitive world, that's universal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that you can kind of take from this and apply to your own life.
Right. So one of the things that really jumped out at me right at the beginning was this focus on being present,
Yeah.
like being in the moment. And the transcript starts with this voice saying, "Your body is here, mind is somewhere else. There's nothing more important than being present in this moment, Mr. Jones."
Mm.
And then it goes on to ask, "What is more important than your training, Mr. Jones?" And I thought that was really interesting because it's like, we talk a lot about focus on this show, right?
Right.
About, really paying attention to the information that you're trying to absorb.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about, right? Like, if you're not present, if your mind is somewhere else, you're not really learning. You're not really growing.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. I mean, especially for people who are trying to, like you said, absorb information, learn new things. If you're not present, if you're not really there in the moment, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other.
Totally. So, okay, let's move on to this idea of waters, right?
Right.
This comes up a lot in the lyrics.
Right.
We hear, the waters, they try you out. The waters sub, they bring you down. So what do you think that's about?
Well, I mean, water is often used as a metaphor for life's challenges, right? Like the unpredictable nature of things. Sometimes you're riding the waves and sometimes you're getting pulled under.
Yeah.
And I think here it's definitely representing those challenges, the obstacles that, everyone faces in life.
Yeah, and it almost feels like, it's not just like random, the tide coming in and going out. It almost feels like these waters are like intentionally trying to bring you down.
Right. And maybe even like manipulative forces.
But yeah, almost like there's some negative energy out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it.
So how does Solo Jones deal with these waters?
Well, he says, I can navigate the rivers, I control the flooding, but I don't swim in shady lakes and I don't slow the currents.
Interesting.
So he's saying, like, I can handle the big challenges, the rivers, the flooding, but I'm not going to mess with the shady stuff,
Yep.
I'm going to stay true to myself. I'm going to keep moving forward.
Right. And I love that line about not slowing the currents, like he's accepting the natural flow of things.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. It's like, you can't control everything. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow.
Right. And for the listener, maybe that translates to being really good at, sifting through information, knowing what to trust, knowing what to avoid.
Exactly. It's like you can handle a lot of information, but you got to be discerning. You got to be careful about where you're getting your information from.
Right. So we've got this idea of being present. We've got this idea of navigating these waters, these challenges. Now let's talk about self-perception, right?
Okay.
Because there are a few lines in here that really stood out to me, like this one. Me and the mirror have our differences and both look away.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that there's some, internal conflict going on there, like maybe a gap between how he sees himself and how he wants to be seen.
Yeah. Or maybe even how he actually is versus how he wants to be.
Right. And then it's like that tension is amplified by these lines. Sitting down with a sense of power ain't suiting them. Like he had some opposition, but now, he doesn't. And name is Solo, but he's moving like there's 20 of them. Like he's almost overwhelmed by his own like inner power.
It's interesting, right? Because he starts off by acknowledging that he has this internal conflict, that he's not perfect. But then it's like he just completely owns it. Like he turns that conflict into strength.
Right. It's like he's saying, yeah, I've got my doubts, but I'm still going to dominate.
Exactly.
And that leads us to these really powerful lines. I spoke my word and kept it all 1,000. I screamed the loudest when they all was solid. I brought the powers, made them weak in the knees, till I made friends with the evils that beat. I mean, talk about resilience. Talk about facing your demons head on.
Yeah. It's like he's not afraid of anything. He's faced his fears, he's come out the other side, and now he's unstoppable.
Yeah. And then we get this amazing image. Strength of Zeus in his prime, raining thunder in hand. I mean, come on. That is pure, unadulterated power.
Yeah, it's like he's tapping into some primal force. And it's interesting, too, because throughout the lyrics, he keeps coming back to this idea of not engaging with the shady stuff. Like he's got this strong moral compass that guides him.
Right, and that's where the line, I can smell the F niggas' hearts, and their soul is vacant, so pictures corner this fucking game with some concentration comes in.
Yeah, that's a really intense line. It's like he's saying, I can see through you, I know what you're all about, and I'm not going to play your game.
Right. Like he's got this incredible ability to read people's intentions, to see through the BS. And, for the listener, that's so important, right? Like being able to discern what's real and what's fake, what's worth your time and what's not.
Absolutely. It's like in a world that's full of noise, you got to be able to filter out the junk. You got to be able to focus on what matters.
Okay, so we're coming to the end of the transcript here. And it all culminates in this incredible declaration. I am the one, the undisputed, don't argue with bleeds. Son of the light word of the earth, nigga, god of the speech. All of my shoulders, so fuck all that closure. My cup running over your time, moving slower. You under the waters, RSRR.
Yeah. And it's like, he's not just saying, I'm the best. He's saying, I'm on a whole other level. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even compare yourself to me.
Right. And I love that contrast between his cup running over, like he's overflowing with abundance, and everyone else being stuck underwater.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, while you're struggling to stay afloat, I'm thriving.
Say, in a nutshell, what we've seen in this deep dive into Solo Jones's lyrics is a blueprint for a powerful mindset.
Yeah, it's about being present, navigating challenges, believing in yourself, and staying true to your principles.
Right. And that brings us to a final thought for the listener.
Yeah.
Think about that image of the cup running over. How can you cultivate that same sense of abundance in your own life? How can you find that overflow?
It's a great question, and one that I think we can all benefit from pondering.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Keep exploring, keep those insights flowing, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.